Morning arrived gently in Cloverbrook village. The stones were cool and shiny with dew, and the sky was soft like a peach. Even the fountain seemed to whisper as it bubbled. At the fountain's edge, a small smooth stone gave off a quiet glow. It looked ordinary, yet it made the tiniest hum. The water around it trembled in little circles. Luna padded over with her lantern swinging softly. She bent down, listening with her whole face, as if her ears could smile. The hum felt warm, like a friendly purr. Luna lifted the stone with both hands, very careful not to drop it. It was cool and wet, but the humming inside it was cozy. A few drops tickled her fingers and fell back into the fountain. Kai came trotting down the lane, and his tiny orange fox scampered beside him. They both paused when they heard the strange little hum. The fox's ears pointed forward like two small arrows. Kai crouched low, as if the hum might roll away if he startled it. The fox sniffed and made a tiny sneeze. The humming stone answered with a brighter shimmer. Luna showed the stone to Kai, and the humming grew steadier. Thin lines of light appeared on its surface, curling like a tiny map. They leaned close, sharing the same quiet wonder. The map lines wiggled and then settled, pointing away from the village. One bright mark blinked like it wanted to be followed. Luna's lantern glass caught the glow and made it dance. At the village edge, the gate to the country lane stood open. The grass beyond it looked freshly combed by the wind. Somewhere far ahead, trees waited like tall, friendly giants. Luna and Kai decided to follow the stone's gentle directions. Luna kept it safe in both hands, close to her lantern. Their steps sounded soft on the cobblestones, like quiet taps in a song. They walked along the lane where spider webs wore tiny dew diamonds. The shadows were still long and sleepy. The humming stone stayed steady, as if it liked the direction they were going. Bramblehush Lane opened up ahead, bright and friendly. The brambles were dotted with little blossoms, and the grasses hissed softly when the wind passed. The whole path looked like a ribbon laid out just for them. They stepped onto Bramblehush Lane, and the stone brightened near the signpost. Kai pointed at the curve of the path, matching it to the glowing lines. Luna nodded, feeling the hum like a tiny drumbeat. The brambles rustled and sprinkled petals onto the path. The air smelled sweet, like berries that weren't quite ready yet. Somewhere, a small bee buzzed by like a fuzzy dot. Kai skipped ahead, and the fox trotted right beside him, tail flicking like a tiny flame. They looked back as if inviting the path to become an adventure. The warm sun made the dust sparkle like sugar. Kai shared a little crumb, and the fox nibbled politely. Then the fox sniffed the air and turned its head toward the trees ahead. It seemed the forest was calling with a quiet, leafy sound. Luna stopped and watched the stone carefully. The glowing arrow slid toward a darker green line, pointing to the forest. She hugged the stone a little closer, feeling brave in a soft, calm way. At the end of the lane, a wooden stile waited like a small step into another world. Beyond it, Larkshade Forest stood tall and green. Sunlight poured through the leaves in bright, warm stripes. Together they walked toward the stile, leaving the brambles behind. The stone hummed like it was pleased. The grasses swished around their ankles, making a soft shoo-shoo sound. The dirt track narrowed, and a few dry leaves skittered past in the breeze. Birds sang from somewhere high up, clear and bright. The world felt awake and ready to help. Larkshade forest greeted them with tall trunks and soft ferns. Sunbeams made glowing paths in the air, and tiny pollen specks drifted like golden dust. The forest sounded like gentle breathing. They stepped into the forest, where the ground was bumpy with roots. Luna kept her lantern close, and the stone's glow stayed steady. Kai moved carefully, but his eyes still sparkled with adventure. On a mossy root, a little swirl of light hovered in the air. It looked like a music note made from sunshine. The ferns trembled as if they could hear it too. Luna knelt down and brought the stone near the floating note. The hum changed, becoming a little brighter and higher. She reached slowly, as gentle as a feather. The swirl of light slipped into the stone like it was coming home. The map lines pulsed once, like a happy heartbeat. Luna felt a soft tickle in her palms, then the hum settled again. Not far away, Kai and the fox explored a hollow log. The fox tapped it with one paw, listening for secrets. Kai peered in and laughed softly when a beetle waddled out like a tiny knight. A glowing speck floated by the fox's nose, and it blinked in surprise. Kai held his hand close, ready to keep the little creature safe. The speck drifted on, leading toward a brighter clearing. The trees thinned into a clearing where the air felt cooler. Far ahead, something shone like a mirror between reeds. Flat stones made a friendly trail, pointing the way. Luna and Kai followed the flat stones toward the shining place. The stone now held 2 tiny note marks, glowing softly. Their footsteps were quiet on the moss, as if the forest wanted them to tiptoe. They crossed stepping stones that felt cool underfoot. Dragonflies zipped past like little blue arrows. The sound of water grew louder, a gentle shimmery hush. Mirror Pond Glade lay open and bright, with water smooth as a polished bowl. The sky's reflection looked like it had fallen into the pond. Lily pads floated quietly, and reeds swayed in slow green waves. They stepped to the pond's edge and leaned over together. The stone's glow shimmered on the water, making tiny sparkles. A frog croaked once, as if saying hello. In the pond's reflection, the map lines looked different, like a hidden picture. The glowing arrow now pointed toward a rocky ridge far away. Little bubbles rose and popped with soft plips. Luna sat on a warm smooth rock and held the stone low. The reflected lines became clearer, like the pond was helping them read. She felt thankful for the quiet, helpful water. Kai and the fox tiptoed near the reeds. A glowing note spark hovered over a lily pad, trembling like it might fall in. Kai steadied himself, careful not to splash. Kai used a long reed to gently guide the note spark closer. The fox watched without blinking, as if guarding a treasure. The water rippled in circles, shining in the sun. Kai brought the note spark to Luna's hands. The moment it touched the stone, it slipped inside with a tiny flash. The stone now hummed in a fuller, rounder way, like a song getting its missing pieces. A narrow trail curled away from the pond toward pale rocky hills. The reeds swayed as if waving goodbye. The sunlight was still bright, but it felt a little softer now. They left the pond behind and followed the trail upward. Luna kept the stone steady, and the 3 note marks glowed like tiny stars. Kai walked close beside her, matching his steps to the gentle hum. The path began to climb, and pebbles crunched softly underfoot. The grass grew drier and brushed their legs like straw. A few clouds drifted by, thin as milk. Sighing Stone Pass was full of pale boulders and whispery wind. The grasses made long, shushing sounds as the breeze slid through. The sky above felt bigger, like it had more room to breathe. They stepped into the pass, and the stone's hum wobbled for the first time. The glow flickered, as if confused by all the echoing rocks. Luna slowed down, and Kai looked around to find what was wrong. Between two boulders, something thin was stuck tight. It looked like a little strip of silver, trembling without making any sound. Dust trickled down like sleepy sand. Luna knelt and held the stone near the crack. The arrow glowed bright, pointing right at the stuck strip. She reached in gently, but the rocks were too tight for her fingers. Kai hurried over with the fox, both studying the crack. The fox sniffed and then backed up, tail twitching. Kai saw that the strip was caught on a sharp stone edge. Kai found a smooth pebble and used it like a tiny tool. He pressed softly, not too hard, and the strip shifted a little. Grit fell in a quiet sprinkle, and the wind sighed again. Kai eased the strip out, and Luna held the stone close to catch whatever it was. The strip shimmered like a silent chime. For a moment, the air felt like it was holding its breath. The strip turned into a glowing wind note and slipped into the stone. The hum became smooth again, like a lullaby. Luna's lantern caught the light and shimmered warmly. But just ahead, a tumble of rocks blocked the trail. The stones looked heavy and stubborn. The wind kept whispering, as if asking them to be patient. Luna held the stone up and watched the glowing arrow. It pointed toward a higher ledge where the rocks were fewer. She took a slow breath, feeling the warm sun on her cheeks. Kai and the fox searched along the edge of the rockfall. The fox hopped onto a flat stone and looked proud. Kai found a narrow gap that looked safe enough to squeeze through. Kai guided Luna through the narrow gap, one careful step at a time. Luna kept the lantern and stone tucked close, protecting their glow. When they reached the other side, the hum sounded cheerful again. The trail climbed toward an open ridge where the world looked wide and bright. The light was turning orange and honey warm. The grasses waved like they were clapping softly. They left the rocky pass behind and walked toward the open meadow. Their shadows stretched long beside them. The stone hummed with a fuller song, as if it could almost fly. A ridge path led them onward, with tiny wildflowers dotting the grass. The breeze felt warm and sleepy. Far ahead, a small stone circle waited under the changing sky. Starbell Lookout was a meadow high above everything else. Bell-shaped flowers nodded in the breeze, and a stone circle sat quietly in the center. The sky was beginning to blush pink at the edges. They stepped into the stone circle and stood very still. Luna held the humming stone above the center, and Kai listened with his whole body. The meadow seemed to hush, waiting for the next note. The center stone had grooves like a simple puzzle. The humming stone's light traced them, filling each line with glow. Tiny specks floated up, like sleepy fireflies waking early. Luna lowered the stone into the center groove and let go slowly. It fit perfectly, as if it belonged there. The hum deepened, warm and round, like a big friendly drum. Kai stood at the edge with the fox, both looking up at the wide sky. The clouds drifted slowly like soft ships. The fox sat very still, as if it understood something important was about to happen. The glowing lines grew brighter, and the bellflowers shimmered. Luna and Kai lifted their hands a little, feeling the warm wind brush their fingers. The meadow's air felt like it was smiling. Wind notes rose from the circle in gentle ribbons of light. They floated upward, slow and calm, as if they had all the time in the world. The sky welcomed them with pink and gold. The whole lookout glowed as the sun sank lower. The wind notes spiraled into the clouds, and the air began to sound clearer, like a clean whistle. The hills in the distance turned darker and quiet. The final wind note floated away, and the humming stone grew calm and dim. Luna picked it up again, and it felt lighter, like it was resting. Kai smiled, and the meadow breeze felt like a gentle pat on the back. The map lines faded until only a warm glow remained. The stone no longer asked to be followed, it simply hummed a thank you kind of hum. A petal drifted past, slow as a yawn. The sky shifted into lavender, and the first star blinked on. The stone circle grew quiet again, just a ring of friendly rocks. The meadow sounded soft and sleepy, like a blanket settling. Luna and Kai started the walk back, with twilight cooling the air. Luna's lantern became the brightest light near them, and the stone glowed softly beside it. Far below, tiny village lights began to twinkle. They followed the ridge as the sky deepened from purple to blue. Crickets began their tiny songs, one after another. The path seemed to hum back, remembering their footsteps. Sighing Stone Pass looked different at dusk, quieter and softer. Shadows gathered between the rocks like dark puddles. Above, a thin moon rose, pale and calm. They walked into the pass again, and Luna's lantern painted warm circles on the boulders. The stone in her hands felt quiet, like it was sleepy too. Kai stayed close, listening to the softer wind. The narrow gap beside the rockfall was still open, just as they left it. The lantern's glow bounced off pale stones like gentle firelight. It felt good to see the trail welcoming them back. Kai walked with the fox again, and the fox trotted as if it had been saving its energy for the trip home. Kai still had the smooth pebble he used to help earlier. He slipped it into his pocket like a small souvenir. The fox's paws made tiny crunches on the gravel. Night insects fluttered close to the ground, drawn to the lantern glow. Everything moved slower now, like the world was getting ready for bed. They left the rocky pass behind and headed toward the forest line. More stars appeared overhead, one by one. Their breath puffed faintly in the cool air, and the lantern felt extra cozy. The trail sloped downward, and the grasses brushed the path in the dark. An owl hooted far away, slow and steady. The night wrapped around the world like a soft cloak. Larkshade Forest was moonlit now, with silver light slipping between branches. Fireflies drifted like tiny lanterns of their own. The trees stood quietly, as if they were watching over the path. They stepped back under the trees, and the lantern warmed the ferns with golden light. The stone in Luna's hands gave a tiny, sleepy hum. Kai walked gently, careful not to crunch too loudly. They passed the mossy root arch again, now glowing softly in lantern light. Fireflies hovered like slow sparks. The forest felt friendly, like it remembered them and approved. Luna lifted her lantern and watched the ferns sparkle with tiny drops. The cool moisture smelled clean, like fresh leaves. She held the stone close, happy that its humming had become so calm. Kai and the fox followed along, watching fireflies blink on and off. The fox's eyes reflected little points of light. Kai's steps were slower now, like his feet were learning the rhythm of bedtime. Ahead, the trees thinned, and the path brightened with open sky. They could hear tiny night insects and the faraway hush of water. The lantern bobbed gently, like it was nodding off too. They followed the edge path where moonlight turned the grass silver. The lantern's warm glow mixed with the cool night light. Far off, the village rooftops looked like soft shapes in the dark. Bramblehush Lane was quiet at night, with brambles making gentle arches. A few berries caught the moonlight and gleamed. The path lay still, as if it were resting after a long day. They stepped onto the lane and walked close together. The bramble leaves rustled softly, but nothing felt scary. The stone hummed like a tiny bedtime song in Luna's hands. The signpost stood under the moon like an old friend. Lantern light pooled at its base in a warm circle. Around the bend, the village lights winked like sleepy eyes. They walked toward the village gate, with stars shining brighter above them. Their footsteps made soft thuds on the packed earth. The night felt kind, like it was guiding them home. The last lane into the village was peaceful and still. A cat slept curled like a cinnamon bun on a doorstep. The lantern glow slid over the cobblestones without waking anyone. Cloverbrook Village was warm and sleepy under the stars. Cottage windows glowed like little honey squares. The fountain in the square bubbled softly, as if it had been waiting for them. They returned to the fountain square, tired in a good way. Stars twinkled in the fountain water, and the air felt calm. Luna and Kai shared a quiet smile, happy their adventure ended safely. Luna set the stone back where she found it. It glowed once, softly, like a goodnight kiss. The fountain water rippled in slow circles, then settled. Kai crouched by the fountain with the fox. The fox took a tiny sip of water and blinked sleepily. Kai gave it a gentle pat, and the fox leaned into his hand. Together they walked toward Luna's cottage, moving slowly now. The lantern light swayed like a sleepy firefly. The village felt safe, wrapped in warm window glow. Inside the cottage, everything looked soft and warm. A little table waited with a simple snack, and blankets lay ready on the bed. Outside, the night was still and kind. Luna set her lantern on the table, and the room filled with cozy light. She rubbed her eyes, feeling the day's long walk in her legs. Through the window, the fountain square looked calm again. Kai and the fox headed toward their own home, moving quietly past the fence. Kai gave a small wave back toward the cottage window. The fox's tail flicked once, like a tiny goodnight flag. The village street grew quieter and quieter. Window lights dimmed, one by one, like sleepy eyelids closing. The fountain bubbled softly in the distance, keeping its gentle nighttime song. Luna climbed into bed and pulled the blanket up to her chin. The lantern was turned low, just a small glow. Her eyes grew heavy as the moon painted pale stripes across the floor. Luna's face softened, and her eyes closed all the way. Far away, the fountain's tiny hum seemed to mix with the cricket's song. The whole day felt tucked safely away. The cottage window glowed warmly under a sky full of stars. The garden flowers stood still, resting. And in Cloverbrook Village, everything drifted into peaceful sleep.